Hello and thank you for watching this video. I've taken some time off because of work and family stuff, but I'm back now and I have a whole bunch of notes and things I'd like to say. And of course it's about the reactionary crowd, watching the Watchmen. Yeah, guys like Armored Skeptic. And you know, these guys, they hate Black Lives Matter, they hate feminism, they hate progressives, you know, pretty much just as much as Fox News does. They're pretty much Fox News for millennials, if you ask me, and they're really intellectually vacuous, but they know how to push all the right buttons. They know how to say all the right things. They're panders, really, and they're really only accountable to their Patreon supporters, and I suspect that that's where most of their ideas are targeted at, is to pleasing those people. And so I'm going to go over a little political manifesto that Armored Skeptic wrote, and the guy named Mr. Wooly B commented on, criticized in a blog post, and the original source is right here. It's actually copied, but I'm using Mr. Wooly B's interpretation of it slightly, and I get a kick out of this. He says that he doesn't have ideology, and so does Sargon and people like that, but the thing is that capitalism is an ideology, democracy is an ideology. You know, ideology is like bad breath. You're the only one who thinks you don't have it. I mean, look it up, guys. So imagine my delight when I was looking through this essay and I found that Armored Skeptic wrote fair and balanced. He wrote a fair and balanced environment. So did he consciously do that? You know, steal Fox News' slogan? I should have put Fox News' slogan in here. But oh well. So let's look at this boyfesto. It's something straight out of the mind of a child. And he wrote in it, freedom of expression, of course, includes freedom of speech. And he said that you should live in a world where we can say whatever we want without punishment. So let me get this straight. If someone calls your house at 4 a.m. and threatens to kill you, or someone threatens to kill you and rape your wife or your mother, you're going to sign up for the freedom of speech. What if NAMBLA starts a YouTube page where they talk about how to get away with molesting children? Are you going to defend their right to have that site up on YouTube? So they can have their own channel? Or are you going to try to get that taken down? What about ISIS? What if they have a YouTube channel and they talk about how to do suicide bombings? Do you think they should have the freedom of expression to do that? I mean, come on. Every society censors itself and other people to a certain extent. The trick is that, you know, if you look at the history of censorship, it's usually governments try to suppress censorship when you criticize the government or people in power. I think we should be free to criticize the government and people in power all we want. There's no conditions on that. Otherwise, you know, we live in a world where there are consequences for your actions. And then, what is this, 1776? He talks about universal rights, inviolable individual rights. Now, yeah, I think that we do have a right. We do have rights to things like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, are they inviolable? That means they can't be violated. These rights can be violated. Someone could kill you. If you have the right to life and someone kills you, that right has been violated. These are not inviolable rights. What if someone takes away literally a freedom of speech the way they did to hippies in the United States and locked them up during the civil rights movement? Then yeah, you're violating those rights. They're not inviolable. George Carlin has a really good bit on this, on how we really don't have rights. We have privileges.
Rights. Boy, everyone in this country's always running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right. You have no right. We have a right. They don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman, the Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea. Cute. But that's all. Cute and fictional. But if you think you do have rights, let me ask you this. Where do they come from? People say, well, they come from God.
Further in the essay, he writes about egalitarianism, and he writes about inheritance. Egalitarianism is the most misrepresented position of them all. Our society requires equality of opportunity for every person, and equality under the law for every person. Yes, some will achieve more than others, but that is where the meritocracy comes into play. Those who achieve greatness will do so through merit or through inheritance. Now, Wooly B is right. He pointed out there's a big contradiction in that. I mean, you have white affirmative action in the United States. You know what that is? George W. Bush was the biggest recipient of that. That's when a rich, dumb guy goes to Harvard because his daddy went to Harvard. Or because he has connections. That's white affirmative action, you know? And if, you know, people like Sargon talk about, well, then there must be an Asian privilege too because Asians get paid more than white people, which is true. But the thing is, guys, Asians live in the 5 richest states in the United States. They live in California, Hawaii, New Jersey, and that skews the results. Plus, when you talk about Asians, there are a lot of different kinds of Asians. As a matter of fact, the highest paid Asians are people from India. The lowest paid Asians are Vietnamese. So you're talking about a very broad range of people, whereas, you know, somebody like African Americans, they don't know where they come from. They're all kind of, sadly, they don't know their heritage, unlike Asians, you know, so they're different. And, you know, that's actually why there's such a big gap in wealth today in the United States between black people and white people, is because of inheritance, because white people inherited more money than black people do. I mean, I get a kick out of it when people go around saying that, oh, black people are poor because they're lazy, because of food stamps. And yeah, I admit sometimes thug culture can get bad, and, you know, there's learned helplessness for white people and black people, but, you know, we as a society should come together and try to fix some of those ills. We should try to get rid of, you know, he talks throughout this Boyafesto of his about how we're all equal under the law, and we're not, really. You know, we live in a conflict-based criminal justice system. We don't have a Napoleonic justice system like they do in Europe where everyone gets... We have a case law system. It's complicated. But we don't have a very good system, and it really favors people with money, and a lot of times it even favors white people over black people. And there's so many statistics and so many studies to show that, you know, richer people and whiter people often get off. And, you know, some of the time, like, poor white people have it tougher than poor black people. That's just the way it is. It all depends on what part of the country you're from. You know, Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama might have more money and privilege than I will ever have, but at least I could drive through Alabama without getting pulled over. It's all situational, you know? And, you know, he talks in that throughout that Boyafesto of his about how we're all equal before the eyes of the law. But the thing is that the laws we have today were born out of very racist. You know, the laws that we live under today were formulated years and years ago, decades ago, and they're only being reformed. So it takes time to institutionally change things to, you know, favor lower income people more and not, you know, rich white people as more. And recently, one of Nixon's aides who worked in the Nixon White House came out and said that the drug war was aimed at hippies and black people, leftists. His name was John Ehrlichman, and he told Harper's Weekly that the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had 2 enemies, the anti-war left and black people. He further went on to say, you understand what I'm saying? We know we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Do we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So you see, if you really look, I get a kick out of these conservatives and right-wingers like Sargon and Armored Skeptic, and don't even try to tell me they're classical liberals. Because if you look at the classical liberals of old, they try to ban the civil rights legislation of 1874. Classical liberalism had slavery, it had all sorts of brutal atrocities like imperialism. Classical liberals are guys like David Ricardo and Thomas Malthus. And you try to tell me those guys are good guys. There's a reason why we have modern liberalism. Classical liberalism failed. And you know what? Sadly, I'm not even happy with liberalism as we have it today even a lot of the time. I mean, Hillary Clinton talks less about the war on drugs than Milo Yiannopoulos did. I mean, holy crap, there's a guy on the right talking more about the war on drugs than, this Democratic politician who should be trying to end it. She should be trying to let people out. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I don't have black and white ideas. I see ambiguity and nuance in things. Like feminism. These guys hate feminism just as much as Fox News hates feminism. And the thing is that feminism can be good and it can be bad. Like, I live in a small city called Williamsport, Pennsylvania. There's one homeless shelter for men, and there are a few homeless shelters for women. Now, the homeless shelters for women, they could take their children into those homeless shelters. So if you're a homeless guy and if you're a homeless single father, you're going to lose your children. But if you're a homeless single mother, you're going to be able to keep your children through going into the women's shelter where they're allowed to have their children. And sadly, the men's rights activists and the feminists hate each other like cats and dogs. And maybe, they should actually try to get together and look at, gender inequality and try to solve these problems and stuff like that rather than being in each other's throats, And they don't tell you things like, there might be more homeless men, but there are actually more women who are in poverty than men. So it's hard to be a man or a woman, really, and these guys, like Armor Skeptic and TJ and all, and they paint a picture of the world that's black and white. There's no gray in their worldview. They're kind of like preachers, if you ask me, and that's why they're so popular. There's a definition of ideology saying that it oversimplifies things, and I think that these guys really oversimplify politics, and that's why they are so popular. They make the world simple, and that world that they construct is morally unambiguous. It lacks ambiguity. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you for watching very much. I do plan on making more videos here coming up. I'm glad that I had some free time to make this one, and have fun.
Yeah.